Okay, thank you guys for coming to my talk, especially after lunch. I know it can be a little drowsy, but I promise you're gonna have fun. Even if you haven't used Figma before, or if you're just a dev, it's gonna save you a lot of time using Figma to test out your ideas before spending a lot of time coding and realizing, no, this isn't it. So thanks again for coming. I am Medha Muppala. I am a product designer. I work at a startup called Jamio. And I'm also a Women Tech Makers Ambassador. So Women Tech Makers Ambassador is it's a program by Google where it's women and allies, and we promote diversity in tech. We talk about Google products or anything in tech, really. With that, let's get started. So what is Figma? I'm sure you guys would have heard of Figma before, but just to give you a brief introduction, I'm not going to dive too deep. It's a design tool. It's kind of like Photoshop, but with Figma, it's more molded towards designers who design for web and apps. So that is what Figma is, and we'll be taking a look at it during this talk. And by the end of this workshop, if you guys have a laptop, you can follow along. If not, that's completely fine. Everything I tell you guys, I'll try and tell it really slow so that afterwards, if you have any doubts, you can reach out to me and I'll let you guys know if you're stuck on a specific part of the app or anything. We would have 2 fully designed screens, but if we don't have the time, at least we would be able to do one of the screen, and you can modify it or put it on your portfolio or whatever you want to do with it. With that, this is the link. You guys can take a picture and explore it later, but this is the link where all the design and the assets are. It is also the same link that is here. And this is what we'll be making. It's really funky. It doesn't follow a lot of design principles, but that's okay because it's the first app that you guys will be making. So I just wanted to make it really fun, really colorful, really easy to design. So I see a lot of cursors here. So what you guys would need to do is, it's view only. So when you need to sign in, and when you sign in, you click on this arrow called DevFest Montreal Workshop. Click on it. Click on it, and then you hit duplicate. So when you duplicate it, it opens up another file like this one, and this is the one that you'll be able to edit, okay? So you will not be editing it. We'll be designing it from scratch, but I want you guys to have your own file because you won't be able to edit the link that I provided. So that's why you're going to click on this arrow, duplicate it, and it'll open another screen like this. And this is where these are pages. If you see up here, this is a page. So there's a page called design and a page called assets. Design is where the app design is for reference. And then assets is where the illustrations and the icons that I used are. So all you need to do is just design with me. You don't need to look for illustrations or any of these icons. You can just start designing. So if you're on your laptop, the first thing after you duplicate it would be creating a new page because you guys want to start fresh. So let me make it, you can name it whatever you want. Design, demo, app, you can name it whatever you want. So this is what you guys will start with when you first open Figma. I'm not going to teach you each and every feature in Figma. I'm going to teach you just enough so that you can make your own stuff without feeling like it's too complicated, because it's very easy if you guys listen very carefully. The first thing, after you create your page, you can navigate by just clicking on the pages. So I'm going to go to this blank page that I just created by clicking on plus. Now below, you see a few options. I don't know if you guys all have the new version of Figma. Some of you might have an older version. In that case, I believe these options would be at the top here. So try and find these options, please, because I know some people got access, some people didn't get access to the new Figma UI. So below, these are the most important options, I would say. And if you see this grid-like icon, we want to click on that. It's called a frame. So basically, frames are kind of your templates for the size of the screens that you'll be designing. So if you click on frame, on here, you can see all the sizes that you can design for. Even if you want a custom size, all you have to do is just drag and it'll make a custom size. But for now, we're going to use a pre-made template. So I'm going to click on frame again, and then let's go to phone, and let's just, let me use iPhone 13 mini. Okay, you can use any size you want, but I just went with iPhone 13 mini, and this is the screen size of the iPhone 13 mini. So I don't have to make like a random size and guess what size the screens would be. There are some pre-made ones here. If you click on frame, all of them are here: phone, tablet, desktop, everything. So I took the iPhone 13 mini. Now before I start designing, I'm going to have you guys take a look at this. It looks so complicated, but it's actually really, really easy. Let me explain a few of the components. So this is the frame that we just made. It's a basic template. Now this, you see this background here? It's a rectangle. It's a white rectangle. And here, for this effect, all I used was a circle, and then I elongated the circle so to make it an oval, okay? And then the text you see here is a text box. So this is like one of the text box that I used. This one is another text box that I use. And this button here that you think it might be so complicated, but it's just a rectangle with rounded corners. And this is text inside of the rectangle. Now you might be thinking, well, if we use rectangles here, why don't we use rectangles for creating the whole outline? Why do we use frames? That's because frames are kind of like the background of the layers. So this whole frame is this sign up. And if you use a rectangle, all of the rectangle elements go inside the frame. But when you make stuff and when you put them on top of a rectangle, they don't go inside of the rectangle. The rectangle always stays on top. And a nice example would be, so let me make a quick rectangle here, and let me color it. Okay. Now I'm going to take a circle. I'm going to draw it inside the frame. This is an ellipse, circle, anything. And then I'm going to draw another one on top of the rectangle. So if you see the layers here, this ellipse that I first drew, it went inside the frame. If I toggle it, you can see that it's inside the frame. That's what we want, and that's why we use frames. Because when you're designing something for mobile or app, you want all the stuff to be inside the app screen. But when you have a rectangle, everything you put on top of it just stays on top of it. It's not inside of this rectangle. Unlike here, it's inside the frame. So that's just a quick example of the difference between a rectangle and a frame. Now let's start designing. I'm going to copy this, Control-C, Control-V, so it's side by side, so we can reference it and design. So the first thing we need to do is, so this is the whole screen. Let me make the background of this a certain color. So I click on the name. When you click on this frame, it's easier to click on the name because it selects all the elements inside of it. So I'm going to click on the name of the frame. And if you see here where it says fill, that's where we change the color. So I'm going to click on the color box and drag it to whatever color you want. You can also enter a hex code. You can use RGB, CSS, HSL, HSB, any values you want. So if it's RGB, you enter the values. I'm just going to stick with hex, and I gave it a 222 color. You can choose whatever you want, but that's what we'll be making today. So we have the basic background of the app. Now what we want to do is make a white rectangle so that the top half of it looks like this. So just go to the shapes. So this is where the frame is. Right next to it is where all the shapes are. So click on the drop down, select a rectangle, and just draw a rectangle. You can use whatever height you want. So I drew a rectangle. And if you want, you can draw it anywhere. Just drag it inside the frame. So when you drag it, so notice the layers here. When I'm dragging it inside, it'll go inside the layer. So it went inside. So it's nested inside the frame. That means it's inside the screen. Now I'm going to align it. So these are the alignment options. Very easy to remember. The icons are very easy to remember. So I'm going to top align it, and then I'm going to align it in the center. So now it's aligned perfectly. And I'm going to change the color to FFF, which is white, so we have the same color. So basically, half of it is done, almost. Now we are going to click on the shapes box again, click on an ellipse, and I'm going to draw an oval here so that I get like this curve kind of shape. It's just an oval. It's a circle. I dragged it. Now I'm going to put it inside of the frame. Right now you can see it's on top of it because it's not nested inside the frame. So drag it inside, and it should look like it's inside. Okay, so now it's inside the frame here, ellipse and rectangle, and I'm going to center align it. I'm going to change the color to white again so that it looks like it's a part of the same shape, which is this curve kind of shape. And one thing you need to do, if you can still see like the outside of the circle, the outline, you need to click on the name and click on clip content. If you don't do it, you can see the excess of the oval. It doesn't get cut off with the frame. So if you click on clip content, it'll go. It'll basically clip everything that's outside of the borders of the frame. That's why it's useful using a frame. Next, let's go to the assets panel. Click on this illustration, Command C, Control C, anything, and then click on the name, Command V or Control V, and just drag it inside. So we're almost like three-fourths of it is done. So how easy was this to follow along? Yeah?
Is this a reference to the asset or a copy?
No, it's a copy, like a copy-paste. So yeah, you just Command C and then Command V. Okay, now we have the illustration. Now let's make the text, the button, and all of this. So what you need to do is now, can anyone guess how we get text here? Yeah, anyone?
You choose
the text box, yeah, perfect. How easy is it? So I chose the text option. I'm making a text box, or you can just directly click and just, oh no, you need to drag it, my bad. Okay, so you need to drag the text box, and I'm going to name it Skill Hive. You can name it whatever you want. Now I'm going to do Command A, which is Control A. It selects everything. Now here is where we change the text, the font weights, everything. So I'm going to change the font to Work Sans. You can choose whatever you want, but this is what I used for the app. And let's see what color I used here. I'm going to select this. So this is what the fill is here. So that's the color I used. If you click on the letters here, you can Control C or Command C, and you can copy the code. Now I'm going to go here, Command A, and then paste the hex code in this fill. So now the color of it changes. And I'm going to increase the text size to, you can choose a pre-selected font size, or you can type in the font size. Let's go with 32 or 40. Yeah. And you see how there's kind of this excess kind of text box. I want it clean. So I'm going to click on this option here. It's auto width, so it makes it the right amount of text, the text box. Now we have this text. I'm going to center align it again. I'm going to use the positions there. It auto aligns it. And if you want to move it within the frame, just use the arrow keys. Or if you want to move it faster, so using the arrow keys moves it 1 pixel. If you can see the y-axis, you can see it's going 612, 611, 610. But if you hold down Shift and move the arrow key, it'll move it 10 pixels at a time. So it's faster. So I usually use Shift. It's faster to move around when you hold down Shift and use the arrows. And if you want to check how much the spacing is between the borders or any elements, when you have a certain element selected, click on Option and hover over anything. And it shows you, okay, there's 96 pixels, 95, 165. That's the spacing we have around. Yep.
Can you remind how you extract the color from the book?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So you can either click on the book. So you can click on the whole illustration. And here you can see selection colors. So in that selection, there's this color and this color. So I'm going to click on this color, and then it selects it. I'm going to do Command C, copy it, and then I'm going to use that color wherever I want, here, or if I want it here, anywhere. I'm just going to paste that color, and then it'll apply to that color. Okay, next, master any skill. We want a subheading for the app, another text box. Click here, and then master any skill. And for the secondary font, I'm going to use Inter. And I'm going to give it like 18 pixels. and I don't want it semi-bold, I'm going to make it regular. Regular is fine. And then I'm going to use auto width again so that it cleans up the whole box. And now I'm going to use option to see how much spacing is between everything. So I select this, hold down option, and I hover over this, and I can see how much spacing is between it. So it's 13. Let me move it up 3 pixels. It's like 10. That's good enough. And then I'm going to select both of them. If you want to group certain things together so it's easier to move them around, select both of them, hold down Shift, select both of them, and Command G or Control G. So you can see a group here. That's the group that we put both of these in. If you want to ungroup it, just click on it. And then you can see ungroup here. So if you ungroup it, the group is gone. So for now, I'm going to group it so that I can move it around together. Now when I need to move it around, I don't have to pick up both of them. They're always grouped, so I can move them both together. Center align it. OK, so we're almost done with the first screen. Now next, let's make the button. I already told you guys how to make the button. How are we going to make it? With a rectangle. Yes, exactly. So let me take a rectangle, drag a rectangle here. Now again, we're going to click on this. In selection colors, I'm going to copy this color, Command C or Control C, paste it here, Control V or Command V. So we have a rectangle, but we want it to look like a button. Another thing you can do is you can do this to increase or decrease the height and width, or you can use these numbers here to kind of play around with the width and height. So I'm going to make it 240 pixels in width, and height, let's give it like 60 pixels. So that's going to be our button. I'm going to center align it. So certain apps have very rigid buttons like that one with like sharp corners, but I want to give our app a more friendly look. The more roundness there is on the buttons, the more friendlier it's perceived to be. So let's click on the rectangle, and you can see appearance here. So what this is basically the rounded corners. So it's asking you the value of the corners. So I'm going to give it like 24 pixels. So I'm going to set that as the roundness. And another cool thing you can do is, let's say you want to get creative with it. If you click on this button on the side, you can set values for individual corners. So let's say I want one corner rounded. This can be 0, and then this can be 0. So this is another style of button you guys can create. So you can get creative in the corner radius of anything, rectangle, a circle, or an oval, or anything. But for now, let me just give it equal value. I'm going to give it like 25 pixels. Center align the button. And now we need to put the text in here. So again, we pick up the text box. I'm going to type in get started. And I'm going to use enter, 0, perfect. Or let me make it 2, 2, 2. That's what I've used for the background. And now I'm going to use auto width. Now I want to align this text with the button without manually having to drag it around. You can drag it around, and it'll give you like guidelines on where to place it, but I want to do it really fast. So I'm going to click on the text box, click on Shift, and then click on the button as well. So hold down Shift, click both of them together, and now I'm going to use this. Put it in the middle and center align it. So it's basically, it does it for you. You don't have to do the hard work. So now that looks okay. It doesn't look the same, but it looks kind of similar. You can play around with it. You can get creative with it. And now for this one, it's just another text box. So what I'm going to do is to tell you guys another feature. You can use the text box to drag text, or if you want to copy something that's already there, you can choose to duplicate it. So Command D or Control D duplicates it. So when I duplicate it, you can see the group. Another group would be formed here. So Command D. So it just made another group, and it's right on top of that. So I'm just going to drag it inside this frame. Okay? So that's how you duplicate elements, but I'm going to make it from the beginning so you can get the underlying text and everything. Text box, and then type again. Already have an account. Okay? So you can choose to use 2 text boxes, one for this one and one for sign in, or you can use the same one. For now, I'm going to use the same one so that you know how to style it in the same text box. Some gap, and then sign in. So what I'm going to do now is select sign in, just the text sign in, and then do Command U or Control U. It's for underlining the text. Command U, Control U. And just for that part of the text, I'm going to change the color to yellow. So again, this is the hex code that I copied from this button. So I just pasted it in this fill box here. So that gives that text, that part of the text, the same color. And auto width, and that's it. Yeah, it's not the best looking, that's for sure, but design is something that would take months or years to master, because although all this seems easy, you would have to know how much space to give between both all the elements, how much spacing you need to leave on the sides, what UI principles you need to follow, and all that. But apart from that, this is like a very easy way to understand Figma. And if you're a dev, like testing out your projects, if you don't want to spend a lot of time coding and then thinking, you know what, this is not the direction we're going to go in, Figma is a very fast and easy way to test some of your designs. And the best part is it's completely free. You get unlimited drafts, so all the drafts you can make in Figma. And if you want, I can show you guys how to make this one as well. It's the same one. Let's see, we still have time, right? Okay. Okay, so let's make the second screen. I'm going to go a little faster on this one because it's basically almost the same thing. So I'm going to put it on the side for reference. Okay. Again, another frame. Let me choose iPhone 13 mini again. Okay. Now let's take a rectangle. Or let me make it fun. What do you guys think this is? This shape here? What do you guys think that shape is? Rectangle with rounded corners. And does it have rounded corners or on all the sides? No, only the top and bottom. So if I click on it, you can see it says mixed. That means I use different values. So only the tops have 30 pixel radius, and the bottoms doesn't have anything. Okay, so that's one. Next, you can see inside of this. This is another rectangle in a different color. And this is a text box. And then this is the icon that I added in assets. So all you have to do is copy paste these icons and you get it here. So this icon is here. This is a text box. This is another rectangle with 20 pixel radius on all corners. This is the same thing. And now, again, this one. This looks like a big accordion or something, but it's a rectangle with rounded corners, an icon that I added in assets, and these three are text boxes. And then another button with rounded corners on all four sides. I think you guys have a basic understanding. I don't want to be too repetitive, but I'm happy to take on any question. Yeah?
How did you export this?
Okay, that's a great question. Okay, so I'm going to go to design here, and I, as a product designer, I don't code. I don't write a single line of code. I pass this Figma file to the developers at my company, and what they do is, you see this little toggle at the bottom? Click on that, and then now you're in dev mode, okay? So now let's say you want to make this button. Developers want to make this button. They click on it. And check this out. It gives you all the CSS properties you need to code the exact same thing. And the best part is you can change it CSS, iOS, and Android. So you can choose whatever you want. So it's a very easy, it's a fast track way of coding stuff and making it seem like you're good at design, even if you're a beginner, because you can code your own apps. I think more than product designers, I think developers can make use of it a lot, because I can only design it, but developers can code it. So when you design your own apps, think of what you guys can do because you already know how to code. And that's what devs do. They click on dev mode, and then now I want this text. It gives me the font, it gives me the size, the weight, style, line height, everything in it, even the icon. So if I click on this icon, they have an option to export it. So you see this export here? They can export it as an SVG or a PNG or a JPEG, anything they want, and then just use it in their code. So export, and it downloads it. So that's how easy it is for developers when they use Figma or when they design using Figma.